Lonely CFO saw a poor single mom returning her baby's formula. What he did next changed everything. It was just after 5 in the evening, but the winter sky over Maplewood, New Jersey, music had already turned a deep, aching blue. Snow fell steadily, music blanketing sidewalks and rooftops. A biting wind sliced through the streets, whistling between street lamps, but Claire Whitmore walked on. Her blonde hair clung damply to her cheeks. Her scarf, once navy, now faded and frayed, was wrapped tight around her neck. Her oversized coat flapped with each gust of wind, offering little protection. In her arms, bundled in music, a worn pink blanket was her 9-month-old daughter, Lily. Claire's boots crunched against the icy sidewalk. No car, no bus fare, no family to call, just a mother walking through snow, chasing hope. Lily whimpered softly, her tiny music fingers peeking from the blanket. Almost there, baby, Claire murmured, bending her head low. Just a little longer. The automatic doors of Magumar opened with a hiss, releasing warm air that made her eyes sting. Claire grabbed a cart, placed Lily gently in the child's seat, music, and wrapped the blanket tighter around her. We're just getting what we need, she whispered. She moved quickly but carefully through the aisles. Bread, store brand, a bag of oatmeal, music discounted apples, bruised but edible. Her eyes flicked to every price tag. $23. That was all she had. Then she reached the formula aisle. Her stomach dropped. There it was. The only kind Lily could tolerate. Hypoallergenic, soy-based, music doctor recommended. The only thing that didn't make her break out in painful rashes. Price, $41.99. More than $18 beyond her reach. She stared at the can. Her mind scrambled. Maybe I can put back the bread, the oatmeal, the apples. But no, even if she put everything back, it still wouldn't be enough. Her hand hovered over the can. What if I asked to pay later or leave my name? I'll come back Friday. Heart-pounding music, she grabbed the can and gently placed it in the cart anyway. At the checkout, Claire unloaded her items one by one. The cashier, a teenage girl, chewed music gum and didn't look up. $4,783. Claire opened her wallet and laid out her crumpled bills, coins, everything. I only have 23, she music said softly. I'll have to put the formula back. The cashier wordlessly reached for the can and slid it off the counter. A man in line behind her sighed loudly. Claire's cheeks burned. She glanced at Lily, who began to fuss. Claire reached out and stroked her cheek. It's okay, sweetheart, she whispered. Mommy's got you. Ah. She paid for what she could, about $11 worth, and pushed the cart toward the exit. Her back hunched, trying to make herself smaller. Outside, snow fell thicker now. At the far end of the store, near the coffee kiosk, music a man had been watching. Daniel Rodis, 37, tall in a dark overcoat and leather gloves, stood beside a shopping cart where his 5-year-old daughter, Isla, sat swinging her legs, sipping apple juice. He had seen the entire thing. The quiet calculations, the heartbreak, the formula left behind. Issa tugged on his coat. Yes, sweetheart. Why doesn't that baby have any milk? Daniel didn't answer right away. It had been 4 years since Emily passed. 4 years of spreadsheets, meetings, routines. He provided for Isla, protected her, but softness feeling that had long gone quiet inside him until now. Something about that young mother's stillness, music her exhaustion, her quiet strength. It stirred something he hadn't felt in years. Isa looked up again. Can we help them, Daddy? Daniel looked at her, then toward the doors where Claire had disappeared into the snow. He nodded slowly. Yes, he said. I think we can. Daniel moved quickly, his long strides purposeful as he turned the cart back toward the baby aisle. He barely noticed the other shoppers around him. Ela, seated in the cart's child's seat, looked up at him, her cheeks still rosy from the store's warmth. Are we getting the milk now? She asked. Yes, sweetheart, Daniel said gently. We're getting the milk. He stopped at the exact spot Claire had stood minutes earlier. The same can of hypoallergenic formula sat untouched on the shelf. Daniel picked it up without hesitation. His eyes caught a nearby rack of fleece-lined toddler mittens, and he added those too. Music then, on impulse, he wheeled toward the bakery and picked up a package of soft rolls. In the hot food section, he grabbed a container of chicken noodle soup and another of creamy mac and cheese. Warm, filling, comforting. It felt right. He paid in cash and didn't wait for change. Outside, the cold hit instantly. The snowfall had thickened, blanketing the lot in a fresh white layer. Daniel zipped his coat and tucked Isla under one arm, shielding her as he scanned the parking area. He spotted Claire almost immediately. Music, she was standing at the edge of the lot beneath the tiny shelter of the bus stop, arms wrapped around Lily. Her other hand, Music, clutched a small grocery bag. Her lips were pale, her face stiff with cold. She rocked Lily gently, Music whispering to calm her. Daniel crossed the icy lot, Issa clinging to his side. He stopped a few feet away. "Excuse me," he said softly. Claire turned startled. Music, her eyes widened when she saw him. Instinctively, she held Lily closer. Daniel held out a brown paper bag. "I think you dropped this." Claire blinked, confused. "No, that's not mine." He didn't move. "It is now." Her face tightened. "I can't accept this." Daniel glanced at Lily, then back at Claire. "It's not charity," he said. "Music, it's empathy." She hesitated, her arms tightening protectively around her daughter. Daniel took a breath and added, "As a father, I just wanted to help her mother." Something shifted in Claire's expression. Her eyes welled up. She blinked fast, willing the tears not to fall. Before she could respond, Ela peeked out from under Daniel's coat. "You're Lily's mommy, right? I saw you in the store," she said cheerfully. "You look like the princess from my bedtime book." Claire's lips trembled. She looked down at the little girl with wide, trusting eyes. "Do you think so?" she whispered. Isla nodded. "You held her like this," she Music added, mimicking Claire's gentle rocking. "My mommy used to do that too." Claire pressed a hand to her mouth, turning away slightly. For a few long seconds she didn't speak. Then she reached for the bag with shaking hands. "Thank you," she said hoarsely. "I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Daniel replied softly. For a moment they stood in silence, Music snowflakes gathering on their coats. Lily had quieted again, nestled deep against her mother's chest. Illa leaned her head against Daniel's shoulder. Claire glanced toward the street. The music bus still hadn't come. The wind howled through the trees. Daniel followed her gaze. "Where do you live?" Claire hesitated. "Maple in Fifth." "It's about a mile," he nodded. "Let me drive you." She shook her head quickly. "No, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not," he said. "I'm offering." Another pause. Claire's grip on Lily tightened. "I don't usually accept help from strangers," she murmured. Daniel's tone was kind but steady. "I get that, but tonight's too cold for pride." Their eyes met and something passed between them. Quiet understanding, music, not pity, not obligation, just recognition. Claire looked at Lily, then at Isla, who gave her a sleepy smile. For her, she said finally, barely above the wind. Just for her. Daniel nodded. "Of course." He turned and led the way across the parking lot toward his SUV. Claire followed, arms wrapped tightly around her daughter. The warm paper bag pressed to Music her chest like something precious. Snow continued to fall around them, soft and steady. It was a night that could have been forgotten, but for both of them, it was the night everything quietly began. The apartment building sat tucked between two shuttered storefronts on a quiet street. Snow piled along the sidewalk. Daniel parked in the narrow lot, scanning the cracked siding and flickering porch light. Claire shifted Lily in one arm, groceries in the other, fumbling with her keys. Daniel stood beside her, Isla bundled against his chest. "I know it's not much," Claire said softly, almost apologetic. "But it's safe and warm most nights anyway." They stepped into a narrow hallway with peeling wallpaper and creaky floors. Claire led them upstairs to a faded green door and pushed it open. Music, the apartment was small, one bedroom, a living area, a kitchenette, but spotless. The faint scent of lavender lingered in the air. Second-hand furniture was arranged neatly. A lamp cast a warm glow. In the corner sat a stack of children's books and a bin of handmade toys, paper roll tunnels, bottle cap trucks, yarn-strung puppets. A patched quilt lay folded over the couch, its pieces music stitched from old shirts and floral prints. Above it hung a black and white photo of a young man in uniform. The frame was simple. The caption read, "Sergeant Music Thomas Whitmore, Operation Iraqi Freedom, 2004. Daniel paused. "That was my grandfather," Claire said, setting the bag on the counter. "He raised me after my parents died." "He was everything good in my life," Daniel nodded. "He looks proud, strong." "Help was," she whispered. "He passed a few months before Lily was born." Claire slipped off Lily's coat and laid her on a blanket on the rug. The baby cooed and grabbed at her toes. Daniel set Ela beside her. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked. "So little." Ela giggled. gently brushing Lily's hand. "Hi, baby," Lily squealed, clapping her hands. Ela made silly faces, drawing more laughter. Claire watched them, her features softening. They're already getting along. "Looks like it," Daniel replied with a faint smile. He hesitated, unsure whether to leave, but Claire gestured toward the kitchen. "Would you like some cocoa?" "I always keep a little for nights like this." Daniel nodded. "Sure, thank you." She filled 2 mismatched mugs from a saucepan, adding a pinch of cinnamon, then handed him one. Sitting on the couch armrest, she cradled hers. "I was in college," she said quietly. "Business administration." "I wanted to work in non-profits." "What happened?" Daniel asked. "I got pregnant. My boyfriend wasn't ready. I thought I could balance school, work, being a mom, but life music doesn't bend to hope." He stayed silent, listening. "My scholarship was pulled. Grandpa had just passed. With no family help, I dropped out. Took any job. Cashier, waitress, babysitter." She gave a small laugh. "Now I'm a full-time mom and part-time everything else." Daniel sipped the cocoa, thin, too sweet, yet it warmed him more than he expected. Across the room, Ila lay on her stomach, whispering to Lily, who babbled back between giggles. Their laughter filled the apartment, soft and real. Daniel's gaze lingered on them, then on Claire. Something about this room, stitched quilts, recycled toys, love woven through hardship, made him feel present. He had built his life on order and control. But here, in this modest apartment, surrounded by warmth, not bought, but music created, he felt something foreign. He felt home. He felt home. Claire caught him staring. She tilted her head. "What?" Daniel shook his head slowly. "It's just nice." Music, she arched a brow. "Nice. More than nice," he admitted. "Real." They sat in silence, not awed, simply at ease. From the floor, Isla looked up. "Daddy, can we come back tomorrow?" "I want to play with Lily again." Claire blinked, music surprised. Her eyes flicked to Daniel. He looked at his daughter, then back at Claire. "We'll see." "Music," he said softly, voice tinged with something unspoken. Claire lowered her gaze to her hands. For the first time in a long while, her home didn't feel like just survival. It felt like the beginning of something more. Music. The house was dark when Daniel returned. Snowflakes clung to his coat as he stepped inside, brushing them away absently. Isla had fallen asleep on the drive home, her head heavy against his shoulder. He carried her upstairs, tucking her beneath the quilt Emily had sewn years ago. She stirred but didn't wake. Music downstairs, the silence pressed in. Daniel's thoughts circled back to the small apartment, to Claire's soft voice, Lily's bright eyes, music and the laughter of 2 little girls who had met only hours earlier, yet sounded like sisters. He poured a glass of water, set it aside, and walked to the hallway closet. From the top shelf, he pulled down an old cedar box, its lid music stiff with disuse. Inside lay faded photographs, metals, and a bundle of letters tied with green string. Daniel lowered himself into the armchair by the fireplace. He untied the bundle, fingers trembling slightly. His father, George Rhodes, had written music often during his deployment in Iraq, but one letter had always lingered in memory. He unfolded it now. August 3, 2004. The convoy hit and wide outside Mosul. I woke under twisted metal, bleeding, pinned. Music, I thought it was the end. Then someone pulled me out. A young soldier, blonde, sharp eyes, strong as hell. He dragged music me clear, stayed until the medics arrived. His name was Sergeant Thomas Whitmore. I owe him my life. If I don't make it back, tell Daniel about him. Tell him there are men who risk everything for someone they barely know. And we never forget those men. Daniel's eyes fixed on the name. Thomas Whitmore. Music, he read it twice, 3 times. Then he noticed the small photograph tucked into the envelope. A young soldier stood before a Humvee helmet under his arm, a weary smile on his face. The corners were creased, but the features were clear. Daniel froze. It was the same face he had seen above Claire's couch. his chest, 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 his chest tighten, 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 his chest tightened, his chest tightened, his chest tightened, his chest tightened. He pulled out his phone and scrolled quickly until he found the photo he had snapped, an absent-minded shot of her living room he hadn't deleted. There it was, the same wooden frame, the same soldier's eyes staring back with quiet resolve. Her grandfather, Thomas Whitmore. Daniel sat back, stunned. His father's words echoed in his ears. Never music forget the man who saved me. Now, decades later, he had sat in that man's granddaughter's home, shared cocoa, watched her baby and his daughter laugh together on the floor. And Claire hadn't said a word about it. Perhaps she didn't even know. It felt like time had folded in on itself, tying past and present into a single knot. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, the photo in one hand, the letter in the other. For a long moment, he simply breathed, shaken by the weight of it. Then softly, but with conviction, he spoke aloud. I won't repay this with money. I'll repay music it with something that lasts. Not charity, not a check written from pity, but something that would honor a soldier's sacrifice, something that could carry a legacy forward. He gazed into the flickering firelight, the old photograph warm in his palm. This wasn't about obligation. It wasn't about recognition. It was about doing what was right. Daniel Rodis would find a way not just to help Claire survive, but to give her the chance to build, to rise, to pass on the strength of the man who had once dragged his father out of fire and smoke. Something enduring. Something that would honor the past music and change the future. The phone rang just as Claire was folding laundry beside Lily's playmat. The baby squealed, gnawing on a rubber teething ring, her legs kicking the air. Claire grabbed the phone, tucking it between her cheek and shoulder while folding a worn onesie. Hello. Hello. May I speak with Miss Claire Whitmore? Her heart skipped. This is Claire. Hi, I'm Janet from the Maplewood Veteran Support and Outreach Centre. I believe you applied a few months ago. Claire sat upright. Yes, for the administrative assistant position. We're sorry for the delay, Janet said kindly. There have been some changes. A new program. We'd like to invite you in for an informal chat. Claire blinked. Really? Yes, of music course. I'd love to. They set a time for the next afternoon. After hanging up, Claire stared at the phone in disbelief. Lily grinned at her, and Claire laughed, overwhelmed with emotion. Ah, maybe this is it, she whispered. Maybe this is the break we've been waiting for. The next day, she wore the only professional clothes she had, a second-hand blouse and slacks. She left Lily with a kind neighbour and walked the few blocks to the Veteran Centre, music hands clenched in her pockets. The red brick building stood modestly beneath a waving flag. A plaque near the door honoured local servicemen and women. Claire paused, took a breath, and stepped inside. Janet met her in the lobby with a warm smile, mid-50s, short silver hair, kind eyes. Claire, she said, shaking her hand. Thank you for coming. They sat in a small conference room. Janet offered coffee, which Claire declined politely. We remembered your application, Janet began flipping through a folder. At the time, we didn't have the resources, but that's changed. A new grant just came in. Unexpected, generous, and very specific. Specific how? Claire asked. Music, Janet smiled. It was established in honour of a veteran, Sergeant Thomas Whitmore. Claire froze. The donor requested the fund music support descendants of veterans, especially those overcoming hardship. It's called the Whitmore Grant. You wouldn't happen to be related. Claire's voice barely rose above a whisper. He was my grandfather. He raised me after my parents passed. He served in Iraq. Janet leaned back, nodding. We thought so. Your application mentioned your family background. When your name came up, it gave a few of us chills. Claire's mind reeled. This grant, Music Janet continued, fully supports you through training, provides a paid position here, and if you choose, will fund your return to college. It's a path forward, not just a job. Claire stared at her. But why me? You're capable, resilient and driven, Janet said warmly. And the donor asked that the first recipient be someone directly connected to Sergeant Whitmore. That's you. Claire pressed her hand to her chest. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Music Janet said with a smile. Claire let out a shaky laugh that turned into a sob. She nodded, tears blurring her vision. Yes, I'd be honoured. And I would be honoured. After completing some paperwork and receiving a training schedule, Claire sat in the scents garden, the late afternoon sun glinting off the snow. Music, her breath came slow, steady. Everything felt surreal. Music just a week ago she was putting back formula at a checkout line. Now this a second chance, a future. Before leaving Music, she turned back toward Janet. Can I ask something? Of course. Who established the grant? Janet hesitated. Then Music smiled gently. He requested anonymity. All we know is he wanted to honour a man who once saved his father's life. Claire's breath caught. She didn't say a word, didn't press further. But something stirred in her heart, a quiet knowing. Whoever he was, he hadn't just honoured her grandfather, he had changed her life. The invitation arrived in a crisp white envelope, hand-dressed with an embossed seal of the Maplewood Veterans Support and Outreach Centre. Claire turned it over several times before opening it. You are cordially invited to speak at the inaugural ceremony of the Whitmore Grant, honouring Sergeant Thomas Whitmore. As the first recipient, your presence and voice would be a vital part of this celebration. If her heart hammered, not just a music piece of paper, her grandfather's name remembered, and somehow she had been chosen to speak. The morning of the event dawned clear, golden sunlight filtering through bare trees. Claire stood in front of her modest bedroom mirror, smoothing down the hem of a dark blue dress she had borrowed from a friend. Lily sat on the bed beside her, wearing a white cotton dress, giggling as she saw her reflection. Claire took a deep breath. For Grandpa, she whispered. And for you. The hall was buzzing when she arrived. Rows of chairs, framed photos of veterans, flags and a banner overhead that read the Whitmore Grant, honouring Sacred's building futures. Claire stepped in, Lily in one arm, a folder containing her speech in the other. Her heels clicked softly on polished floor as she made her way toward the stage. Then she saw him. Daniel. He stood near the front wearing a dark tailored suit, hand resting gently on Ila's shoulder. Ila wore a pale yellow dress, her curls bouncing as she saw Claire enter. Lily? Issa shouted, breaking free and running toward Claire. Claire barely had time to respond. Issa launched herself into her arms, hugging both her and Lily tightly. Issa leaned in and whispered, Miss Claire, if you're already Lily's mummy, can you be mine too? Claire's breath caught, her eyes filled with tears. She laughed. Stunned Music then pulled Ayla close. Daniel watched. No words, but his eyes spoke volumes. Warmth, pride, a softness Music Claire had nearly forgotten existed. She looked up at him then, realising Music had always been him. The one who had left the formula on that snowy night, the one behind the grant, the one who carried her when she didn't even know she was falling. Their eyes locked. No need for words. But across the room, a different pair of eyes watched. Veronica Ashford, Executive Vice President at Daniel's firm. Always polished, always composed. Now she stood in the back, her lips music pressed, brow furrowed. She had admired Daniel in her own way, respected him, envied him. She had seen how gently he had rebuilt his life after Emily's death. And now she saw him smiling at this woman in a borrowed dress. Her chest tightened. When Claire's name was announced, the crowd hushed. She walked to the stage with Lily in her arms, speech folder held tightly, her heart pounded. I never expected to be standing here, Claire began, voice trembling at first. My name is Claire Whitmore, and I'm honoured to be the first recipient of the grant named for my grandfather, Sergeant Thomas Whitmore. He was my hero, and he taught me that sacrifice is not just about the battlefield. It's about love, service, and refusing to give up on those you care about. She paused. Looking toward Daniel, her voice steadied. This grant didn't just help me fight. It reminded me that who I come from still matters, that his legacy did not end with his last breath, that it lives on through me. And now, thanks to this gift, I get to build something for my daughter that I never had. A future. The crowd burst into applause. Daniel, normally reserved, clapped slowly, pride shining in his eyes. Claire Music stepped down, her heart full. Among the applause and smiles, Veronica slipped away toward a corner. Quiet at first, music then whispers spread. I heard she used to work part-time as a server. She lives in low comp housing on 5th Street. Funny how the first grant goes to someone seen with Daniel Rhodes. Veronica's voice was never loud but always suggestive. By the end of the evening, the mood had shifted. The celebration was still happening, but behind polite smiles were sideways glances. Music quieted doubt seated among guests. Claire, holding Lily close, had no idea how far those whispers would reach. Not yet. The conference room at the Maplewood Veterans Outreach Centre was unusually quiet. Board members sat in a half circle, music papers stacked neatly before them, coffee cups steaming. Everything appeared orderly, but tension hung in the air. Claire sat at the far end of the table, hands clasped tightly in her lap, her heart thudded in her chest. She wore the same navy blouse from her first interview here. Lily was home with a neighbour, unaware of the storm her mother now faced. Across from her sat Veronica Ashford, polished in a tailored grey blazer, posture perfect. Her voice was calm, but her words sharp as she addressed the board. Music, I believe, Veronica began, that for the sake of transparency, we should re-evaluate the selection of this year's Whitmore grant recipient. A few murmurs rippled through the board. There have been questions, Veronica continued, from donors and colleagues, questions about Miss Whitmore's connection to Mr. Daniel Rhodes, the anonymous donor. Some feel that relationship may have influenced the award process. Claire felt her stomach drop. This isn't a formal accusation, Veronica said, hands folded. It's simply a matter of ethics. If personal relationships are impacting charitable music decisions, we need to ensure this organisation remains above reproach. Silence. All eyes turned toward Claire. Her cheeks flushed, not with guilt but controlled fury. She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, a chair scraped back. Daniel RH stood from the end of the room. No suit, just a charcoal sweater, sleeves rolled. Still, he commanded the space like a thundercloud waiting to break. He didn't glance at Veronica. He looked straight at the board. If we're talking about transparency, he said, his voice steady, then let me be clear. He opened a folder and pulled out an aged letter, its edges yellowed, corners soft. This is a letter my father wrote in 2004. He was serving in Iraq when his convoy was attacked. He was trapped under a burning vehicle. A soldier, Sergeant Thomas Whitmore, risked his life to pull my father out. Daniel handed the letter to the board chair, who began reading it silently. That man saved my father's life, Daniel continued. Claire's grandfather. The room stilled. I didn't know who Claire was when I first saw her. I just saw a mother struggling in a store. Later, when I visited her home, I saw a photo on her wall. I recognized his name, his face. I went home and found this letter. He paused. I didn't give Claire money. Music, I didn't give her a handout. I created the Whitmore grant to honour a man whose sacrifice changed my family's future. Claire was chosen not because of who she is to me, but because of who she is to him. To him, Hayes is to him. A breath passed through the room. Claire stood slowly, her voice low but clear. I didn't apply expecting anything special. I never mentioned my grandfather's connection to Daniel. Music, I didn't even know there was one. She looked around the room. My grandfather didn't save a man to get his granddaughter a scholarship 20 years later. He did it because it was the right thing. And I am here because I want to live in a way that honours that choice. Her voice faltered for half a second, but then she steadied. This is not a favour, either. Music, it's a legacy, and I will not apologise for being a part of it. Silence music again, but it had changed. The tension was gone, replaced by a quiet weight of truth. The chairwoman finally looked up. I think we owe both Miss Whitmore and Mr. Rhodes. Our thanks, she said, and to Sergeant Whitmore, our deepest respect. Then she turned to Veronica, and perhaps it's time we reconsider your role in this initiative. There was no shouting, no drama, but the message was final. Veronica stood jaw-tight and exited the room. Daniel looked at Claire across the table. He didn't smile, but the look he gave her, full of quiet admiration, deep respect, and something gentler blooming beneath, said more than any words could. And for the first music time, Claire no longer felt like she had to fight to be seen. She had already earned her place. 2 years later, music the house on Willow Lane was small, but filled with life. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, casting golden patterns across the wooden music floors. Laughter echoed from the backyard where 2 little girls chased butterflies between rows of wild flowers, music their giggles rising with the breeze. Claire stood at the stove flipping pancakes, wearing a soft robe over her pajamas. Her blonde hair was tied up in a messy bun, a pencil tucked behind one ear. She was reading an email on her phone, something about the next board meeting for the Whitmore Grant Foundation. She smiled. Executive director. She still couldn't believe it sometimes. The little girl who once dreamed of building a better world now had the power to do it. One scholarship, one family, one life at a time. Daniel walked in still in his joggers and a plain white tee, hair slightly sled from his morning run. He leaned down to kiss Claire's cheek, stealing a pancake from the plate as he passed. "You have a board meeting today." "Don't forget," he said with a music grin. "I won't. And you're making the girls' lunches," she replied, swatting his arm playfully. From outside, East's voice called out, "Mommy Claire, come look at the worm Lily found." Claire's heart lifted at the sound of it. "Mommy music, Claire." The first time Isha had said it completely on her own, Claire had cried for a full hour. She stepped out onto the porch just in time to see Lily, now 2.5, hold up a wriggling worm with delight, while Isla clapped beside her. Music Daniel followed with 2 juice boxes, handing one to each girl. Lily leaned back against his leg and with a little grin chirped, "Thank you, Daddy." It still caught him by surprise sometimes hearing it, but every time it stitched music something back together in his heart. That afternoon they took a walk through the park, their favourite weekend ritual. The leaves were beginning to turn and the sun filtered through the trees in soft golden sheets. Claire held Lily's hand. Daniel held Isla's. Halfway down the trail, Ela looked up at Claire with thoughtful eyes. "I wish you were my mommy when I was little," she said. Claire's throat tightened. She squeezed the little girl's hand. "But you know what?" Ela continued, her face breaking music into a grin. "Now I love you twice as much. Because I got you now, and I remember when I didn't." Claire bent down and hugged her, her eyes shining. Music Daniel stepped closer, wrapping one arm around Claire's back as she rose. They stood there, their girls in front of them, hand in hand, framed by sunlight and leaves and the warmth of something whole. Daniel looked at her, eyes soft. "They needed you," he said, "and so did I." Claire smiled, leaning into him, her voice a whisper music against his shoulder. "We found each other, and together with love not borrowed, not owed, but freely chosen, they music walked on. Thank you for watching this heartwarming journey of love, resilience, and second chances." If this story music touched your soul, reminded you of the quiet heroes in your life, or simply brought a tear to your eye, don't forget to subscribe and hit the hype button to support soul-stirring stories. We bring you real emotional tales that heal, inspire, and stay with you long after the screen fades to black. Until next time, take care and never stop believing music in the power of kindness.